Picture this. It's Sunday night in Atlanta. The lights of Mercedes-Benz Stadium are blazing, and a team that was supposed to be rebuilding under a returning legend is one bad half away from a full-blown crisis. 200 miles north, in Foxborough, a Revolution side clinging to a playoff spot is about to host a New York City FC team that has lost its way at the worst possible time. Somebody is going to walk off that field tonight with their season quietly saved, and somebody else is going to walk off wondering if it's already too late. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because I'm going to break down both Major League Soccer matches happening on August 23rd, 2026, give you the exact score lines I think are coming, and show you the one hidden weakness in each matchup that almost nobody is talking about right now. If you've ever wanted to actually understand why a team wins instead of just guessing, this is going to change the way you watch this league. Before we dive into the breakdown, I want to quickly say welcome if you're new here. This is Goal Verdict, and every single week we go match by match through the biggest storylines in American and world soccer using real form, real numbers, and real analysis instead of just throwing out a random guess. If that sounds like your kind of channel, tap that subscribe button right now. It genuinely helps this show reach more people who love the game as much as you do. And drop a quick like on your way in too. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells me exactly which breakdowns you want to see more of. All right, let's get into it, because there is a lot to unpack today. Let's start with the late kickoff, because honestly, this one has a strange, almost eerie subplot behind it. Atlanta United hosts Sporting Kansas City at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, which is 4 o'clock Pacific if you're watching on the West Coast. On paper, this looks like a battle between two teams simply trying to survive the rest of the season. But when you actually dig into the numbers, this match tells a much bigger story about how quickly a proud franchise can fall apart. Atlanta brought back Gerardo Martino this offseason, the same coach who delivered the club's only MLS Cup back in 2018, hoping he could recapture that old magic after what was genuinely the worst season in the club's history. And for a stretch, it looked like it might actually work. But as of the middle of August, Atlanta sits with a record that's tilted heavily toward losses rather than wins across their opening 19 or so matches, and that is not the turnaround story anybody in Georgia was hoping for. Now here's where it gets interesting, and here's your first little twist for the day. You would think Sporting Kansas City, given they are currently sitting at the very bottom of the entire Western Conference, would be the easy team to write off in this matchup. But form is a strange thing in soccer, and desperation can sometimes make a struggling team more dangerous, not less. Kansas City has nothing to lose at this point in the season, and teams with nothing to lose tend to throw caution to the wind in ways that catch flat-footed opponents off guard. They arrive in Atlanta off the back of a rough result against Colorado, a game where their defensive frailties were exposed yet again, and that is the single biggest thing working against them tonight. When you concede goals as easily as Kansas City has this season, playing on the road against a team that, despite its struggles, still has genuine attacking talent in players like Miranchuk and Almiron is about as unforgiving a task as this league can hand you. So let's talk about that attacking talent for a second, because this is where Atlanta actually has a real edge, even in a rough season. Their front line still features experienced, dangerous pieces capable of manufacturing something out of nothing. And at home, in front of their own fans, in a stadium that can get genuinely loud when the atmosphere builds, that matters more than most people give it credit for. Kansas City's defense this season has leaked goals at a rate that would make most coaches lose sleep. And when you pair a shaky backline with the pressure of being the conference's bottom side, visiting a wounded but still dangerous Atlanta team, you start to see why I think the home side finally snaps its rough patch here. My prediction for this one is Atlanta United to win, and I'm leaning toward a scoreline somewhere around 2-1. A tight, nervy affair where Atlanta's individual quality just about survives Kansas City's chaotic, high-risk approach. It won't be pretty, it won't be dominant, but I think Atlanta's forwards find one more answer than Kansas City's shaky defense can handle. But don't go anywhere yet, because there's a bigger question buried inside this result. If Atlanta actually wins this game, does that mean Tata Martino's rebuild is finally turning a corner? Or is this simply a case of beating the one team in the league currently worse off than they are? That's the kind of question we won't be able to answer until we see how Atlanta responds against tougher opposition later in the month. So keep that thought in the back of your mind, because we may be revisiting this exact storyline very soon. Now let's shift up to New England, because this second match on August 23rd might actually be the more consequential one when you look at the bigger playoff picture. New England Revolution host New York City FC at Gillette Stadium, kickoff at 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time, which works out to 1:30 Pacific for anyone catching this on the West Coast. This is genuinely a fascinating collision of two teams heading in almost identical directions, which is to say, downward, at exactly the wrong moment. New England currently sits fourth in the Eastern Conference, which sounds solid until you look at what's actually happened in their last 5 matches. They've gone draw, win, draw, loss, loss, including back-to-back defeats, a 2-1 loss on the road at Toronto, and a rough 0-2 home defeat against Houston Dynamo. That is not the form of a team feeling confident heading into a home fixture. On the other side, New York City FC sits 7th in the East, and their recent stretch reads almost identically painful. A loss, a win, a draw, and then a loss, with their most recent result being a 2-3 home defeat to Philadelphia Union. 2 teams, both clearly out of rhythm, both desperately needing a result, and both walking into this one without much momentum behind them. Here's the part that I think actually decides this match, and it's not the recent losing streaks, it's the 2 attacking engines driving each side. New England leans heavily on the partnership between Carles Gil, who remains one of the most creative passers this league has ever seen, and Dor Turgeman, who's been the one consistently taking those chances and turning them into goals. Meanwhile, over on the New York City side, the attack runs through Axel Ojeda and Hannes Wolf, 2 players who are actually level with each other at 5 goals apiece so far this season, which tells you their attack isn't dependent on one single superstar. It's more balanced, more unpredictable, which honestly makes them a little trickier to defend against on paper. So who wins the battle of 2 teams, both trying to snap out of a slump at the exact same time? I keep coming back to home advantage and the sheer difference in playmaking talent that Carles Gil brings to this specific matchup. When a team's creative hub is that dangerous, and when that team is playing in front of their own fans who are desperate to see some positive momentum heading into the final stretch of the regular season, I think that tips the scale just enough. My prediction here is New England Revolution to win. With a scoreline I'd put around 2-1, mirroring almost the exact same nervy, low-margin outcome we're expecting down in Atlanta. New York City FC will create their moments. Ojeda and Wolf are too talented to be completely silenced, but I think Gil orchestrates just enough in the final third to get New England back on track. Now, before you assume this is all locked in, let me throw a curveball at you, because soccer rarely rewards certainty. Both of these home teams, Atlanta and New England, are coming off stretches where their own form has been shaky at best. What if the pressure of needing a result actually works against them instead of for them? What if the away sides, Kansas City and New York City FC, playing with absolutely nothing to lose, end up being looser, freer, and more dangerous, precisely because expectations on them are so low? That's the beautiful unpredictability of this sport, and it's exactly why we watch, instead of just assuming the form table tells the whole story. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what these 2 results, if they go the way I'm predicting, would actually mean for the bigger picture. An Atlanta win keeps their faint playoff hopes on some kind of life support while Martino continues trying to stitch together a squad still adjusting to his methods. A New England win would be enormous for their Eastern Conference positioning, especially with the amount of tough fixtures still remaining on their schedule before the regular season wraps up in November. On the flip side, if Kansas City somehow steals a result in Atlanta, that's a small signal that maybe, just maybe, this rock-bottom Western Conference side isn't quite as finished as their standing suggests. And if New York City FC manages to end their rough patch in Foxborough, that balanced attacking duo of Ojeda and Wolf could be the story that carries them right back into playoff contention over these final months. One more thing I want you to sit with before we wrap up today's breakdown. Both of these matches feature home teams that statistically should be favored, and yet both are dealing with real cracks beneath the surface, inconsistent form, shaky recent results, and mounting pressure from their own fan bases. That tension between where a team sits on paper and how they're actually performing in real time is exactly why predicting this league is so much harder than people think. And it's exactly why we're going to keep coming back to these breakdowns, match after match, week after week, because the story never stays the same for very long. So here's the final verdict from Goal Verdict on August 23rd. Atlanta United edges Sporting Kansas City in a tense 2-1 battle at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and New England Revolution get back on track with a 2-1 win over New York City FC at Gillette Stadium. 2 tight games, 2 home teams finding just enough, and 2 away sides that will make you nervous until the final whistle blows. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next matchday predictions. Drop a comment down below telling me which of these 2 results you think I got wrong, because I genuinely want to know your take, and share this with a friend who's going to be watching either of these games this weekend. I'll see you in the next one, right here on Goal Verdict.